I hope everybody has gotten themselves a cup of coffee and looking forward to a fantastic presentation. We have Jim Worthington with Appalachian Pharmacy that's going to come and talk a little bit about his business today. So without further ado, let's welcome Jay.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everybody? Let's see. I'm in Asheville, so you guys are in Fayetteville. Last time I was in Fayetteville, I got it handed to me on the golf course, and for the rematch, I sent my little brother, who was a golf pro, back in my place, and we got revenge. And let's see, it was at Gates 4 Country Club. And so that's one of my enduring memories of Fayetteville. And then when I was in my last year of pharmacy school, I did a rotation in Greensboro, but they put me in Asheboro, and I would spend my weekends going down to Pinehurst, so I was close. So, but everything, people are raving about Fayetteville now as a place to move to and a place to build businesses. So it's very nice to talk to the startup community, the entrepreneurial community. I'm going to share my screen and jump right in. So, okay. All right. I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to answer. Okay. But I'm going to ask you, and I want you to think about it. I've asked this question before in an auditorium, and people have raised their hand. Who has HIV? Who has hepatitis? Who has cancer? It's not something you really want to talk about with total stranger in front of people, I don't think. So why would you want to do it right there? Between foot cream, mascara, and moisturizer. Believe me, I have worked that counter right there and had to have those conversations with people. There are options, and anybody, we've all been called in this, a call center. Look at that warehouse, look at a robot. That's not where I want to discuss something as personal as a disease I've just been diagnosed with. There is an alternative. There is a better way, and that's why Appalachian Specialty Pharmacy exists. This is our actual pharmacy right here. And it does not look like a pharmacy, probably, that you've ever seen. I have friends that say, this isn't a pharmacy, this is a spa. And we took out everything we hated about pharmacy. Our company is one of those instances where you spend a lot of your career going, if I was the boss, this is how I would do things. I finally got the opportunity to do that. So this is our pharmacy. No 1 hour photo, no greeting cards, no sundresses, no Coca-Colas. Just a place to practice medicine, the literal medicine side of medicine, the drugs, and to concentrate on highly complex conditions. And we do that at Appalachian Specialty Pharmacy by focusing on hepatitis C, HIV, and now oncology. And we stay very focused on those complicated states. This is who our co-founders, me and the other Jay, Dr. Jay Grassley. And this is what we are. We are a normal, regular pharmacy like any other pharmacy. You can bring a prescription in here for antibiotics and we'll fill it. Now, we don't market ourselves directly to the public. So we're not like a CVS or a Walgreens or a grocery store, but we all have a lot of experience working in those big box situations, highly impersonal, production oriented. We are not production oriented. What we are is specialty oriented. And there's no legal definition of what a specialty pharmacy is other than that it is complicated diseases. By convention, specialty pharmacy means a medicine that costs more than $600 a month. And we have medicines that cost $30,000 a month that we prescribe. And there is no ceiling on that. You've seen the news, you've probably seen some of the drugs that are hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. If you know anybody, have a friend or family that's a hemophiliac, you know people with bleeding disorders can spend easily $1 million a year on drugs that keep them in an ability to have a fairly ordinary life. And then that last box you see, accredited, that's a key part of what we do. We have to be accredited to some very rigorous standards in order to get access to those specialty medicines. And those standards mean that we're able to deliver a very high level of care, a very involved clinical, hands-on, high-touch pharmacy experience, which is why we look like that, not that. So I'll quiz you on this slide later. This is one of our, I always put this slide up to show that it's a convoluted industry that we're in, but we found a way to interact between prescribers, patients, and payers, and pharmacy manufacturers to get access to the drugs. And this is actually one of our business channels that we've specialized in, which helps us from an investment standpoint leverage an opportunity to be profitable working with federal pricing programs. It's just one business channel, and I like to throw that in there just for to show you that every aspect of it is complicated. This slide has not been updated, but I left it in here because I want to illustrate that our concept has been validated. We started seeing patients on January 1st, 2019. And we finished the year with $800,000 in revenue. In 2020, we did $600,000 in the first quarter alone. So we knew we were on to something. Well, the pandemic happened, and we had to be very flexible and adept at being fast on our feet. We transitioned to a all delivery model. Make a long story short, we finished 2020 with just under $3 million in sales. And we actually won an award over here in our ecosystem, our startup ecosystem. We're the second fastest growing startup in Asheville with our group called the Venture 15. And we're very happy that out of those 15 startups, 5 of the fastest growing startups in Asheville were healthcare companies. And we kind of came out of nowhere and are the second fastest growing. So we've got a lot of high hopes for 2021 as we continue to invest in our infrastructure, our expertise, and we continue to grow. I'll leave this slide up there and want to show you that expanded footprint and capacity section down at the bottom. We're pursuing URAC accreditation. We have ACHC as an accreditation body for specialty pharmacy, and we're accredited there. And now we're going for our second accreditation that's going to open all third-party payer networks. And when I say all, the big 800-pound gorilla in the room is Blue Cross Blue Shield. They demand URAC accreditation. So when we finish that process in May, we're going to open all third-party payer networks. We are now licensed in 8 states, and we continue to make custom software investments and develop the tools we need to aggregate our data back to the pharmacy manufacturers and the third-party payers. And that continues to expand our footprint, expand our capacity. And the thing I'm most excited about is that we have hired our first non-founder employee who is a board certified oncology pharmacist. And as she So we've classed the joint up here. And we've hired Michelle Simmons, who actually is from Fayetteville, as a board certified oncology pharmacist on our staff now. We're very conservative when we move into a new disease state, and we don't want to do that until we can bring the expertise on board to actually serve those patients. So we're very, very excited to start this year with a cancer specialist who is also a survivor on staff to help serve those patients and make our offerings that much better. That is the quick and dirty version of Appalachian Specialty Pharmacy. We think everybody deserves the best level of care you can get at home, and you don't have to be forced into a mail order system that doesn't know who you are or care who you are or even know enough about what they do to treat you well. So with that, I want to stop talking and see if you guys got some questions.
So Jay, you mentioned that if you needed an antibiotic, that Appalachian Specialty Pharmacy could fill that. Will you guys offer the COVID vaccine when it becomes available?
We actually are not going to be a vaccination site. We toyed with that idea. We wanted to do testing initially because we thought all hands on deck, but Abbott Labs would not sell us the molecular testing machines or the testing supplies. The federal government back in the summer contracted with Abbott Labs for the molecular testing devices and basically bought them all and or blocked us from getting them. Not anything nefarious. We couldn't get Abbott Labs to sell us the equipment we needed to do mass testing. We even had free labor set up with the technical college here at AB Tech. A whole nother story is that the allied health programs there have lost their clinical sites due to HCA buying Mission Hospital. And those nursing and allied health students needed clinical hours. We set up a great win-win to do mass testing using the nursing students, and we couldn't get the machines we needed. So we backed out of that. And it's a similar kind of situation with the vaccines. Last year, you couldn't get a bead on how to get the vaccine. And I blame CVS, Caremark, and Walgreens for all things bad in our industry. And about 90% of the time, I'm right. And there is a huge bottleneck in vaccine distribution because those two companies were basically allowed to have a very outsized role in how the vaccine was going to be distributed. And now you're seeing on the news this morning that CVS and Walgreens are going to start having the vaccine available at their sites, which is great. I've worked at both of those companies, and they do a lot of good, but they also do a lot of bad on the on the internal side of our industry. They both operate vertical monopolies that crush independent pharmacies, and that's a whole nother presentation, which I would be happy to make. But their hands are all involved in the vaccine distribution. So let me answer your question. We're not going to be giving the vaccine. We could go that route, but we're behind Walgreens and CVS in line. There are 22,000 independent pharmacies in the United States that could be doing this vaccine. But Walgreens and CVS together have about the same number of pharmacies, and they have a lot better political operation, and they are sitting at the head of the line, so they've choked it off from independence. I've been vaccinated. I went through public health here in Buncombe County. all over North Carolina. Public health is who's getting the vaccine, but they're getting such small numbers because the capacity to make the vaccine has not been ramped up until now. But that is getting better and better and better. Every day that goes by, that's getting better. But I don't have a lot of confidence in any process that CVS and Walgreens is involved in.
So you also mentioned that, sorry, go ahead, Harold.
Yeah, this is Harold. I had a couple of questions, but the first one is, are y'all engaging in doing like pharmaceutical consultation with clients via telehealth?
I suppose you could call it telehealth just because we've had to adapt to doing FaceTime, telephone, and Zoom because most of our patients are not coming in. And so everything has had to adapt, but it's not telemedicine in a sense of billing codes and that kind of thing that a doctor's office might employ under the auspices of telemedicine. But to answer the question, in concept, yes, we could have a telemedicine consultation with a patient, but we're such a high touch pharmacy anyway that that's not something new that we do as a result of the pandemic. It's something we always did or always plan to do, is have a lot of involvement, a lot of high touch with a patient. What we've done is go to all delivery, so we actually see a lot of patients in person, delivering the medicines. But yes, we can do that kind of consultation, using technology.
So as a follow-up, what about the competition in terms of Amazon entering the pharmaceutical market and, Walmart and others? How do you remain competitive when they've got, a very sound kind of distribution apparatus, because it's what they do. So
Our patients that would use Amazon are not the patients that need us. The patients that we want and the patients that need us are the patients with a complicated disease state. Amazon's delivery of medicines is for people that don't need any help understanding their disease, understanding their medicine, understanding their treatment rationales, routines, side effects, things like that. Amazon's for people that just need a drone to drop off their blood pressure pills. And that's not our patient. That's not who we want to spend time. That's not what we do. We're here for the complicated disease state.
Jay, you mentioned that, a part of what you do is routine medicines, right? Antibiotics, et cetera.
No, so what I mean by that, Harold, is that we can do that, but that's not the business that we go after.
I was going to say, so what portion of your business, your revenue stream, is coming out of more routine pharmaceutical distribution as opposed to specialty drugs?
Oh, a smaller, much smaller and diminishing amount. We will eventually not do very many maintenance meds except as part of an entire package for a specialty patient that would make their patient journey easier, so that they would have one pharmacy instead of multiple pharmacies. Does that make sense?
It does. I got one more question and I'll end. Is, do y'all actually compound the drugs? Do y'all create the drugs?
No compounding. Some of them? No compounding. Compounding pharmacy is a great business to be in because a lot of that business is a cash business that insurance doesn't pay for. But that's a completely different animal and a different set of regs and permitting that you go under, where that requires a lot of clean rooms and different kind of almost laboratory setups. So that's not what we do.
So Jay, Jim Boyd here. I have a question for you. I understand that North Carolina is one of 3 states where pharmacists can prescribe medicines. Is that true? Am I understanding that right?
No, that's not exactly in concept. There's a designation called CPP, pharmacy practitioner, and under direct supervision of a prescriber, of a provider that can prescribe, certain pharmacists can prescribe certain medicines. You're going to see a lot of movement in that direction around, I'll give you a great example, family planning. A lot of countries, pharmacists prescribe family planning. In North Carolina, you see a lot of pharmacists that can prescribe and adjust warfarin and other blood thinners, for instance. But a number of states have that designation as that credential for a pharmacist, a CPP to practice, but it's not quite as cut and dry as being able to prescribe.
All right. All right. I guess I just read somewhere about drug therapy, like something about New Mexico, Montana, and North Carolina had that ability. But so just so I can understand, is it that people would come to you for the advice, the understanding, because it is more convenient, more cost effective? Why don't they go to a general, their general practitioner, their home personal doctor? Why would they set up a relationship to come to the pharmacy to have talks with you as opposed to my personal doctor?
When's the last time you had that conversation with your doctor?
I've never had it with a pharmacist.
Well, yeah,
I go in and get my prescription filled with a pharmacist, but I've never talked to a pharmacist about my health at all. I've only talked to my doctor in regard to that.
Well, now I'm not talking about your health. I'm talking about your the actual expertise around the drugs themselves.
But so I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be ignorant. Just help me in this, because I think it's a question other people would have, even as investors or whatever. So the doctor prescribes my drugs. They tell me how much to take and when to take. Can you change that? I mean,
no. Let me be real clear.
Okay.
No, the doctor designs the treatment plan, and we just make sure that it works, that it happens. But our patients are patients with complex diseases, so their drug regimen often comes with a lot of side effects, a lot of clinical data monitoring that the third-party payers and the drug manufacturers require, a lot of feedback in order to gain access to those drugs. So we play an important role in helping the patient understand what to expect. If you start chemotherapy, for example, you're going to have a lot of side effects. And we're here to help you manage those side effects, to prepare you for what's coming when you start taking your medicine. That's where our intervention helps a patient stay adherent. The whole goal of our practice is working with a doctor to make sure a patient takes their medicine the way they're supposed to and finishes treatment the way it was designed, so that the outcome that the medicine is designed to have actually occurs, so that the medicine actually works, and so that the patients stay adherent to their medicine and see it through just like they're supposed to. Because if the patient won't take their medicine, then number one, they're not going to get better, but everybody's time has been wasted, from the patients all the way down to the person that answers the phone at the doctor's office. And there's a lot of breakdown in treatment when people don't understand their medicines, everything from not understanding them to not affording them. There's all kind of opportunities for patients to stop taking their medicine. And when that happens, it's just a colossal failure on everybody's part.
No, I agree. I was in an accelerator that ended a few weeks ago with a company, person out of RDU, starting a group called True Entity, but not doing what you do. But they're all about getting families involved to make sure elderly patients and all the other ones keep their, but in a lot of the same sense, and also making sure that that primary doctor, when they go in, have a report of all the drugs this person is currently on.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And I'd love to connect you with them because there might be some synergy between you all later.
Yeah, that is an excellent thing to point out, Jim, because it is unbelievable how many people see multiple doctors and one of them doesn't know what the other one is doing. The all-time benchmark for this, I had a patient on 39 medicines. 39 medicines they were taking. And to make a long story short, he was dissolving into his recliner. And I know that because I went to his house and was able to pare that down to about 18 medicines that he was on. Still not a well patient, but the dude had to go to the hospital. And you know what the hospital did? They put him right back on all 39 medicines because all they did was reach out to the CVS, the Ingles, and the Walgreens that he had used in the past. And they just faxed over whatever record they had. And so in the hospital, he's put back on 39 medicines. And, you know, nobody's looking at that big picture. And, you know, hell, a dozen of those medicines were counteracting each other or compounding an effect. And so it's a lot of work to straighten that up. And you just think about that across the board with patients. So the company you're talking about, that they're doing some good work if they can help straighten that out. But when, you know, you get a really sick patient, a patient with hepatitis that they're going to need to get better, or they're going to either have liver failure or have to have a transplant, or somebody with cancer that's either going to have to treat their disease or die. You got to really get down into the details and make sure the medicines are working, make sure another medicine is not blocking a medicine or causing it to not work as well as it should, or a lot to unpack there with patients. So, that you would think that everybody would be on board with, but most people are so just do what's right in front of them. Doctors, nurses, pharmacies, patients, people just do what's right in front of them.
Jay, if I could, I'll ask one more question. I'll get off and let everybody else now silence. How soon can you start another block and mortar place down here in Moore County? I live right beside Pinehurst. So I'm outside of Fayetteville beside Pinehurst, and CVS just bought out our local pharmacy that was doing so much money. He was getting older, but I mean, he had an incredible business, but part of the buyout was nobody else could even be in that building.
Yep.
You know, they just shut him down.
That's CVS Caremark's the bane of our existence. And I hate that. And how close are you to Pinehurst number 2? That would depend on how fast we can get there.
I'm right beside Pinehurst number 6, actually.
Okay,
number
that's
2
all right.
is just a couple of miles further down.
Yeah.
But Moore County is, I'm actually in Carthage, the county seat. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, we look forward to being able to expand, because decentralization is an important part of what we do. You know, right now, as we grow this company, we are centralized here in Asheville, but we look forward to we have the ability to ship, but we don't ship medicines right now. And this kind of gets back to Harold's question earlier, the telemedicine component. We're able to, reach out and build a relationship and have a more intimate pharmacist relationship with a patient. But I'm a people person. I like to meet and touch and be in the same room. So I'm ready to have a return to that. But, brick and mortar's on down the road.
Jay?
Hey.
This is Harold.
Hey, Harold.
To that point, things are changing a little bit. So, because of COVID, we have a lot of Medicaid beneficiaries who are really enjoying the telehealth.
Mhm.
I mean, they're enjoying it and don't want to go back. So, I mean, this is an opportunity, I think, to really build these connections,
Mhm.
Because I think maybe a substantial portion of your client base may really like, being able to stay at home, but still want to have that connection to their pharmacist that y'all provide.
We certainly are open to that. We get paid only when we fill the medicine, like any other old-timey pharmacy. The only way we get paid, we don't get paid to see patients because we're not a provider. Like a doctor, we don't have a fee for service model. We only get paid when we fill the prescription. So actually seeing the patient, the mode that we use to see the patient doesn't matter to us. So whatever works best for the patient. We have one guiding philosophy here, and it is summed up in one sentence: what is best for the patient? Or one question: what is best for the patient? So if that means seeing them in person, seeing them at their house, or seeing them just like this, telemedicine, I'm on board with that 100%, Harold. Plus, I think with Medicare beneficiaries, you can slide it in between Price is Right and Days of Our Life uninterrupted. And
there you go.
The whole goal is to make sure the patients do what they're supposed to do with their medicines, and then they'll get better and have a better life. So if it's, I think telemedicine definitely is an idea whose time has come, thanks to the pandemic. It's going to accelerate acceptance of that a lot faster than it would have.
Jay, are y'all PharmDs? Everybody's a PharmD?
Yeah.
So you're not able to bill for the consultation in terms of consulting with clients that have multiple medications to see if there's any drug-drug interactions?
Well, we could bill a patient, but you can't. Most insurance doesn't pay for it. So there's some things you can bill for. And it also depends on if you have some collaborative practice agreements with physicians. You can do some billing for some things like annual Medicare wellness visits, but we're not involved in that. And we don't have any of those agreements in place because we want to focus only on the specialty medicines. So, and that's a trend in pharmacy that's changing. You're going to see that North Carolina is a state that from time to time, pushes really hard for what we call pharmacy provider status. And I think you're going to see more of that. The pandemic has exposed a glaring need for more practitioners. The vaccine debacle we're in right now is because there's not enough people there's not enough vaccine to go in arms, but we need all the people we can. I don't know why we're not vaccinating people 24/7 until it's done, but pharmacists are standing in the wings waiting. And pharmacists could do that with a lot of things in medicine. And I think that's sort of the heart of the issue. And your question there is, we could be practicing. There's smart people in pharmacy that use the term practicing at the top of our license. Let me see if I can say it this way. We can do a whole lot more than just count pills. And I think that gets at that. We can be leveraged to be to extend the treatment team, the medical team people.
So Jay, we have a question from the Dean, Cindy Burns.
Okay.
Hi, Jay. It's funny you're talking about vaccinations because I'm in the COVID-19 line right now for helping my mom get her second vaccination, and we just started moving. And
Good.
I'm happy to say we've only been in line 40 minutes, but I'm telling you, this auditorium is a sea of cars again. So in Cumberland County, we're doing a good job at vaccinating.
Are you in one of the drive-through clinics?
Yes, They have them at our auditorium, yes. So
I'm
here's what,
taking my mom for her second one tomorrow at Reynolds High School here.
well, our first time we sat in line for 2 hours and 40 minutes, but this one we've only been in line like 30 minutes now. So we're doing good. But
Good,
here's my
good.
question. I understand what you're doing, because a lot of us, when we go to the pharmacy, when the ones that you've described that you don't care for, we don't ask questions because there's a whole bunch of people standing around. There's no sense of privacy, and some things could be a little bit more sensitive that you want to discuss. My question to you is, since you have this unique way of doing things, what are you doing to promote what you do, to market what you do, so that people know that you have this service available?
That is a fascinating question, and I'll tell you why. The answer is we're not doing a lot of public-facing marketing, and I'll tell you why. The decision to use our pharmacy involves multiple points of influence. A patient can walk in our pharmacy with a prescription and present it like any other pharmacy. But often with a specialty medicine, you're being treated by a specialist, and they will have a big influence on where that prescription goes. The third-party payer, the insurance company, has an enormous influence on where that prescription is filled, because some plans say you cannot use your local pharmacy. You got to use CVS mail order, for instance. So that influences. In North Carolina, we have a very strong provider pharmacy of choice law, but you can still be overruled by that third-party payer in many instances, which is why we have to jump through a lot of hoops with accreditations and things like that. But often it's not the patient or the prescriber that make the decision over where the prescription goes. It is an unknown phantom deep in the doctor's office, the referral coordinator, that is not on any organization chart, that is a nameless, faceless person that you can't just reach out and touch in a very standard marketing manner. It's somebody that just knows, okay, if we get a prescription for Humira, for instance, we've got to send it to these 2 or 3 places, or if it's a cancer drug, we have to send it here. And the thing we fight the most on our advertising and marketing is what I call the continental drift of the way things have always been done. My own doctor, when I go see him, we have this fight every time. He goes, now, where do you want me to send the prescription? And I'm like, if I have to tell you one more damn time to send it to my pharmacy, I'm going to choke you with your own stethoscope. Because what he does is sits down at his computer, and a little drop-down menu comes down, and the first choice is a Credo mail order specialty pharmacy. And it drives me up the wall. It's kind of become a joke now, but that's what we're up against. The way things have always been done, you just automatically send it to the Walgreens. You automatically send it to the CVS. So we have to really claw to get that kind of attention in a very crowded marketplace that, all of medicine is so busy. You can't talk to your doctor. He's got one foot, he or she's got one foot out the door and one foot in the room with you, and they're already thinking about the next patient. They don't really care where you take the prescription. Just, here's your prescription. Please get out of my room so I can see the next person, because I got to see 32 of you today, or I'm not going to be able to hit my numbers. So does that answer your question, Cindy? Almost got on my soapbox. Cindy, you still there?
Jay, Ron asked if you could put up slide 7.
That one?
I'm sorry, Jim. I was in the middle of navigating people help line. It does somewhat, but you raised a very important point. One of the things you said is when I go to the doctor, and you're absolutely right, where do you want to send this prescription to? But as a consumer, if I don't know that you exist, I can't have it sent to you. So
Right.
you tell me that you have this great service where I can go in somewhere that's not crowded with people buying some foot cream, and I can actually have a conversation with you with somewhat privacy where you can explain my drug interactions or what my possible side effects are, that kind of thing. So I think it's important that you get your name out there to your consumers, because I can't ask for you if I don't know you exist.
That's true. That's true. It's a lot of components. It's that patient-driven one that you just described. And it's also a preference by the prescriber to use us because we can support their treatment plan and their treatment goals and make sure the patient stays adherent. And then probably the most outsized voice in that equation is the third-party payer, the insurance company. Like, we are not on Blue Cross's preferred specialty network in North Carolina. And so Blue Cross is going to steer people away from us instead of to us. And we are doing the things we need to do to get on that list. But so they have the biggest voice, the biggest vote in the room is Blue Cross, the payer. So it's a matter of juggling all those things. But I agree 100%. I can't wait until we mature enough as a company to be able to do a lot of branding and advertising to raise our profile. Because I want people. I think if people see that beats the heck out of that any day of the week. I have had conversations in that setting right there with a patient whose HIV viral load was unstable and he was not responding to the medicine. And that was a very milestone event in my career to have to continue to have those kind of conversations with nosy neighbors in line, or to, who wants to talk about their uncontrollable diarrhea? Can I see a show of hands? Nobody wants to talk about that in that setting, nor should they have to. But being able to get our word out is something that will come later.
So Ron wanted to see slide 7. Do you have a question, Ron?
Hey, Jay, this is Harold again. What's your biggest threat looking forward over the next maybe 5 years or so?
Our biggest threat is as we grow, you attract attention to people that can either acquire you or crush you. And we always want to be on the side of that line that's on the target of acquisition. I mean, that seems just obvious to say, but we want to make sure that what we do is provide a good service and we attract customers, and that our service is something that would be a nice addition to a portfolio of medical services, so that we're always a desirable partner, not somebody that needs to be snuffed out by CVS. So the biggest risk is and the tide is in our favor in this right now. The political regulatory environment is turning more in favor of independent voices. The recent Supreme Court 8-0 decision. When do you see an 8-0 decision ever anymore? Rutledge versus PCMA was a huge Supreme Court case that was decided in December that says the states can audit PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, and they can't hide behind federal laws like ERISA anymore. And basically what happens is the big PBMs rip off everybody. They negotiate rates from manufacturers and then third-party payers, and they often will require independents to get paid less than what they paid for a drug. And that's why I hate CVS so much. How can my competitor also tell me what I'm going to get paid or pay for a drug? You know, a company like Walgreens or CVS actually has an ownership stake in a wholesaler, so they influence what you pay for the drug. But then they also manage the insurance, the pharmacy insurance of your patient, so they tell you what they're going to pay you. So I don't know anybody else in an industry that has to deal with their competitor telling them what they're going to pay for their product or what they're going to get paid for their product or service. So that's our biggest risk. The issues around regulation, but they're going in our favor now. Courts are consistently finding that these vertical monopolies that the insurance companies and the PBMs operate, their time is up. Everybody, and it hinges on states finally realizing they're getting ripped off to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And now the next component of that is for private commercial businesses to realize, wait a minute, the people we've hired to administer our pharmacy benefit for our employees are ripping them off too, because the PBMs are negotiating a spread and keeping it, and the contract language does not require them to have to disclose that or pass any savings back to the insured, to the customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Any threat from overseas manufacturers and distributors of pharmaceuticals?
Well, the supply chain is global anyway. So many medicines are made overseas. Now, personally, I'd love to see a lot of pharma manufacturing return to this company. A lot of drugs are made in Israel and India. And of course, a lot of drugs are made in China. So you can all formulate your own answer on that one. But in terms of it being a risk that we can manage, that part is beyond us. I mean, I think you'll see a lot of political pressure constantly to return all kinds of manufacturing back to the U.S.
Hey, I'm going to take the last question. What can this community do for you? How can we help?
Yeah.
I tell you what, we're always looking for partners, whether it's practices, medical practices, other pharmacies, people that need a deeper level of involvement with their care. So the question Cindy asked earlier is an excellent question. It didn't have anything to do with medicines or, medicine. It has to do with building our brand awareness and all. And we're not ready to commit money to spend on advertising, but it was an excellent view into one of our challenges. These questions, I love the way that some of the questions were formulated around risks to the business, because those are things that I think about all the time. So anybody that has insight, I'm always looking for people that are smarter than me to help me figure out how to attack and defend against business risks, competition, but also we're just straight looking for people that need a deeper level of involvement in their healthcare. And you may know companies over there that are thinking like this. And I always am looking for friends, friends in the industry, because that's, to me, you get together and these ideas bubble up and you find ways you can work together to get more and better care to more people. And I'm passionate about rural healthcare. I grew up deep in South Georgia. And people say, is that down by the airport? I'm like, 200 miles south of Atlanta, where nobody thinks about you, you know? So North Carolina, I live in Asheville, but you go in any direction outside of Asheville, just a few miles, and you're in the sticks, you know? So I'm passionate about rural healthcare and making sure that anybody in rural settings gets just as good as people in the cities get. So people that think like that are who I'm looking for. Hey, I'm like Oral Roberts, keep those cards and letters coming and make those checks out. You know, so we're always looking for people that are interested in investing too.
Okay. Well, Jay, it's been a pleasure having you. Fantastic presentation. If anybody would like to, if they have any other questions, feel free to stay behind. Jay will hang out with us for a little while. I hope to see you guys next week. We're actually out of time. We've got a great presentation coming up next week. We have Sandra Johnson with Global Finance. Not only that, we've got presenters coming throughout the month of February. We've got one that I'm really looking forward to in March 10th, actually. Lindsay with Neck Knots is going to come give a presentation. She is actually one of Fayetteville Tech's very own. She was a student here, and she was definitely influenced by many of her instructors. So we're looking forward to that. Again, Jay, thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you guys so much. Awesome questions.